Welcome to Zen Money Monday, weekly conversations with innovators, thought leaders, and entrepreneurial junkies about building good businesses, exploring what the idea of Zen money really means, and how to achieve it. With your host, author, business strategist, and Zen Money CFO, Liz LaJoy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Zen Money Monday. I hope you've had a fantastic week and you're looking forward to a fantastic week as well. If you missed last week's episode, I was speaking with Jody Gallant about her experience managing, building, navigating multiple businesses. It was a super fun conversation about how to make business a breeze, have it work for you, and all the things that trip us up along the way, of course. So if you want to catch that episode, you can go to zenmoneymap.com/048. And right now, this week, I want to talk about my favorite word, strategery, which is my fun way of talking about strategy. This is a word that we all, I think, really like, but we're not always sure what it means. And so let's dive into this a little bit about how you can get a little more strategic around your financial decisions, around mapping out where you want to take your business in a way that isn't going to feel overwhelming. I think a lot of times when we consider big long-range planning in our business, it can feel really overwhelming, right? It can be like, oh, I want to get to this place of some version of nirvana, 6-figure, 7-figure, whatever figure. And we may not have that really specified either. It might just be like, I want to make a bunch of money. I think we all say that sometimes in one way or another to ourselves along our entrepreneurial journey. And this is where strategy comes to play, because if we can be very specific about not only the idea of where we want to go in terms of, being in front of a certain number of eyeballs or having a number of money coming in the door. I didn't phrase that really well, but, having an idea of what we want our revenue to be, knowing what we want to pay ourselves, all of those things, we kind of have a nebulous idea about it, but when we can get really granular around where we'd like to be, in the next 6 months or the next 6 years, and start to map out for ourselves how to get from point A to point B, that's where magic can start to happen for you in your business. So, this comes around in a bunch of different ways. And I'm going to start off by talking around this as one of the pillars of your financial house. So in the Zen Money concept, we have your day-to-day work, which is bookkeeping and taxes and all of those record-keeping things that we need to do as business owners. That's required by law, and because, it makes sense to gather that stuff at least once a year. But if we're doing it more regularly, then we actually have data. And it's the data that lets us leverage into the strategy. So that's your second pillar of your financial framework, if you will, within your business. The third one is mindset, and this rolls into strategy as well, because if we're not thinking cohesively around, what is the big picture for my business? What does my day-to-day look like? How is it driving the dollars that I want to flow into my business? Or how is it driving my decisions around spending? Or how is it driving my ability to pay myself? Then we're losing an opportunity here. So from a strategy standpoint, from a strategery standpoint, this is a fun place to play. And a lot of times I think we get really nervous around sitting down and just doing some basic math, because again, we have this disconnect between I want to make a lot of money, or I want to make decent money, or I want to replace my corporate salary, or, whatever our drive is. But we're not quite sure how to track that into a real plan. And so for me, strategy is just about planning, and we have to do this in twofold. One, we look at what's been happening in your business, i.e. this is where the day-to-day ticky-tacky stuff comes into play, because it will give us information that we can build off of. So how have we been doing? What lessons have we learned? And how can we, cohesively apply that to our best guess scenario for the future? And you can think about this as a budget. I think of that just in terms of planning and really getting creative and taking, 3 steps back, or having that 30,000-foot view on what's going on in my business and really where do I want to go in the next 12 months, the next 18 months. As of recording this, we are just about to broach into the fourth quarter of 2020. It's been a crazy year for many people, but this is where being able to have the ability, I should say, to shift and be flexible comes into play, especially around strategy. So if we've mapped ourselves out and said, you know what, I'm going to implement a new program. I'm going to offer my services in a new way. I'm going to try to get in front of a new demographic of people. All of this is, arms of your overall business strategy. If things are working really well, awesome. We want to just check in and make sure that we're on track with where we thought we were going to be. Sometimes our strategy needs to be adjusted. That's true as well. But understanding where we want to go is the first piece of the puzzle, and understanding why we want to go there, which is where drilling down on the nitty gritty is really interesting, because we may have it in our heads, I want to create a, mid six-figure business. That's great, but it's very nebulous, right? A six-figure business could put $300,000, $400,000 in your pocket. A six-figure business could end up costing you money depending on how we do it. So there's a lot of detail in that one statement that really deserve to be unpacked, and understanding where you want to go, the plan that's going to get you there is really important. Let me give you an example. So I've been working with this one particular client. They work a lot in the online space. They support other other businesses, and they have a really great business model. But sometimes my client gets a little distracted because the model works really well. When we sit down and remind ourselves of that, she feels really confident and great about where she's going. And then it's just a matter of, in times of COVID, do we need to make some pricing adjustments? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no, for example. But, earlier this year, because of COVID, she was feeling like a lot of people were not interested in her services. When we actually looked at the real numbers and we said, is our strategy still working? And I was able to give her feedback on the real deal of what's been happening in her business. It turns out we actually had doubled revenue over the same time period over last year. And her profit was a lot higher because we had strategically made a decision about some spending within her business. This is where knowing your plan and then also going back to review yourself against your plan can be really not only enlightening, but relieving. Because I think we have it in our heads that we're just going to, I get done with one piece of the puzzle. I take myself to the next level, or I accomplish a new launch, or I create something and I start working with people in this new way. And it's like we get distracted and we forget sometimes to check ourselves against what that overall strategy is. So if your strategy is, I'm going to just continue to provide great content, I'm going to send out a newsletter, maybe you get most of your business through referral, wherever the monies are coming in the door initially, that's part of your strategy. How you're spending your money is part of your strategy, and how you feel overall about the work that you're doing is also part of your strategy. So if you can take 2 steps back today and just think around, am I moving in the direction I want to move in? If not, what are some things that we can do right now, today, or this month to help you feel like you can get back on track? Because we do get distracted by various things. So when I think about strategy, I think about looking at what's happened in the past, coupled with where you want to go in the future. And this is also an area where when we really drill down on it, sometimes we find surprising answers. I will give you another example. I was working with it recently with a fairly new client who, we were looking at her overall goal for 2020, and, she's off by what felt like pretty significant amount. Like, to make up just to get to her goal, she was going to have to make quite a bit of money between now and the end of the year. And we also talked about the kinds of things she wanted to be able to offer to people, because she has a couple of different versions of revenue stream in her business. And she was feeling a little overloaded in one area, but hadn't really explored another area that she, had used in the past and was interested in getting back into. And so that second area involved some teaching and some, program opportunities. And we were able to work through what, level of engagement she would need with new clients, both in all the arms of her business, to hit her revenue stream. And it had felt really insurmountable when she was thinking about it initially. And we broke it down in terms of, look, at this price, you will need 6 people to come into a new program. At this price, we will need 2 or 3 new people to come in this other area in your business. So she was able to look at her business strategically and say, oh, wait, I only need to find 9 people between now and the end of the year to raise their hands and say they want to work with me at what I feel are very reasonable and easy prices to ask for, fees to ask for. And she has experience and she can go back and prove that she has done this in the past. And she felt really relieved because all of a sudden, strategy wasn't this big unknown. It was very clear and it was easy to map out. And all of a sudden, she was excited to do this new stuff. And I think that change, that shift can happen very quickly when we really drill down on what's going on in our business, number one. But number two, is it really aligned with where we have stated we actually want to go? This is a twofold conversation because sometimes we just have to realign what we're doing to get back on track and to get reinvigorated with our overall strategy and get excited. A lot of times this comes around in, selling and thinking about bringing in new revenue, but it's also invigorating when you just think about your overall business management, how you're showing up, how you're working with clients, what's exciting you, right? And sometimes when we do this review, we realize that maybe our original plan and strategy wasn't really where it wasn't going to help us in terms of where we are right now. So sometimes we shift or the marketplace shifts or we change our minds, and that's okay too. And that's where, again, thinking of strategy not being a static thing that you stick in a drawer and never come back and interact with is really important. I want to reference something too that I think is really helpful when people think about putting specifically a financial plan together. And that is, we often just have this one number in mind. And then if we don't hit it, we're really upset. So I want you to think about building some guardrails for yourselves when you're putting a financial plan in place. Let's take an example like we'll use a program example because it sort of has nice tidy numbers. Let's say that you want to offer something new to your audience, and that involves, working with you in some capacity for, we'll call it $2,000. Okay. You can think of planning for this as saying, okay, I want to make $20,000, which means I need to find 10 people. Or we can build guardrails around this. And you know how I use these images of stone cairns a lot because it's sort of that Zen building process. And I really like that visual. And we can actually use masonry language here to think about this. So we set our base money goal, and that's really what's called your setting stone. It's the stone we're going to build everything else up against, right? So this would be what's the bare minimum we need for you in your business to make this new venture worthwhile? This is one way to think about strategically planning a new offering. So we have our setting stone or our base dollar goal. So in this case, maybe our base is 10 people at $2,000 because we need to have $20,000 coming into our business. Maybe our base is actually to make it just baseline worth your while to do this work with this group of people. Maybe that number is $6,000, right? And so we really only need 3 people as a base. The next stone is a building stone, and you could have multiple building stones, but I'm just going to give you 3 examples so you can see how this works, right? That's sort of our plus goal. So in this version, maybe baseline to make this worth your while is $6,000 in your pocket. So that would be 3 people. Maybe a next version, the sort of plus version, is 6 people at $2,000. So now all of a sudden we're at 18K, right? And wait, can I do math? I can't do math. 12K. There we go. Right. But then we have this also, like, what is the best version? So maybe the 10 people is the best version. You would feel amazing bringing an extra $20,000 into your business with this new offering. That's really your keystone. You can think about like the top of the archway. It's this really nirvana point, but also a very strong structural foundational point as well. And that's our ultimate money goal. So in this version, 3 people at $2,000 is our base. 6 people at $2,000 is our sort of middle ground, next version up, our plus goal. And then, 10 people at $2,000 is our ultimate dollar goal. And so you can go into thinking about bringing people in to work with you in this way, knowing that if you have 3 people, great. Your base is taken care of. Then anything above that feels like gravy, and it becomes a really fun game to play, as opposed to, oh crap, I didn't get 10 people, I only got 8 people, and now all of a sudden I feel like I missed the boat, or that I I wasn't successful, right, in this new venture. This also is a great version when you're looking at changing prices or asking an existing client to up, your retainer. Maybe you have some grandfathered people who you're undercharging and that doesn't feel great. You can use this sort of setting stone, building stone, keystone version, which is our base, our plus, our ultimate levels, to orient your mind around a negotiation. And it really, really helps because if we go in with only one number in mind, then one, we're not being very strategic because we haven't thought out, again, this like, what is my worst case scenario? What is my best case scenario? What would the middle ground look like? So you're not as well informed, which means we tend to, maybe accept something less than we should because we just want to get it taken care of or things like that. So this is where being really strategic around understanding the implications of a possible outcome with these sense of guardrails. Right? What is the least that you can live with and make it worth your while? What is the best case scenario? That can really help you be far more strategic in your decision making as well. So I've kind of run the gamut here a little bit today, but I just want you to think about this week. How strategic are you really being? Ask yourself this. How strategic are you really being in terms of not only your financial decisions, but how you're thinking about your business, how you're thinking about your offerings, and what we can do to make all of this flow a little better, flow a little more easily so that you can have those aha moments of, oh, this is all it's going to take for me to hit my goals. Great. Now I feel really confident. And that is really what the Zen Money process is all about. We're going to be actually talking about this in this fall's From Zero to Zen session. The doors are still open. This is going to be open until the end of the month. So if you want to check that out, we will put links in the show notes so you can see what this new program is all about. But really what I want the takeaway today to be is we need to have all of the pillars of your financial house in really good shape. Strategy is a really fun place to play. It's my favorite place to play because we can take all of these what if scenarios and then get really specific about them and map out different versions. Now, some people say, great, I'm mapping out a bunch of different versions, but none of them are based in reality. Again, this is where having our baseline plus version, ultimate version can create a situation where you actually feel in control and that the outcome is something reasonable and not just numbers on a piece of paper. So consider that next time you're thinking about setting pricing or looking at, bringing in new revenue or even readjusting your fees with someone. This is really helpful at the top of your funnel. You can also do it with expenses. You can also do it with what you want to pay yourself. This is basic 5th grade math. And I just want to remind you that your strategy is based on your financial equation, which again is just income minus expenses equals profit. And your profit bucket is the one that you have to pay yourself and pay your taxes from. So I hope that's a good quick reminder this week. Hope you have a fantastic roll into the 4th quarter. We will be talking about that over the next few weeks as well. And also stick around next week because I myself am getting interviewed. So our next episode is going to be me in the hot seat as the interviewee. My friend Tamara Arnold, the Enchanted Fairy, is doing the interviewing, and it is going to be a fantastic conversation. So join me for that as well. Take care.